All right, so welcome back, everybody. This is part two, just trying to keep this from being too long. Part two of our kickboxing session, our final day of the 100 here, which is July 18th. We're coming back into trying to work on our hop kick from Thai boxing, trying to develop that. We're aware that we're always perpetually loaded in the rear side. So how do we load or arm our lead kick? We started with step and kick. We're trying to move to this hop kick, okay? And so for the benefit of everybody watching, if you have a heavy bag or a bob dummy or something that was made for kicking, practice this, both sides, the rear with no arming, and the lead, practice both step and kick and hop kick with the proper hands. And that's the other thing, everybody. As you're working on all of that, like you're trying to get your hop kick down, even when you're doing it in the air, make sure you're doing the hand selection that works best for you out of the three that we discussed in the last video. If you haven't seen part one of this, you might want to go back and watch part one. All right, and then there's also there's another 2 hours of kickboxing from the previous weekend before this weekend, and you can watch that as well. Okay, so that looks really nice, Rob and Karen. That's good pacing. That's safe. You're getting good reps. That's the way to work it. Okay, so if you have a partner, what you're seeing Rob and Karen do is excellent, is to touch, not kick your partner, but use your partner's body for placement. Like I'm using my chair to keep me from doing a 360. And that's really going to bring us into the soccer kick and a quick explanation of the soccer kick again and why it's so important. That looked good, Rob. And so that everybody out there understands. So, and Coach Dylan writes, just get a banana tree and kick it. And yeah, I got you. Absolutely. If you're ever in Thailand and your brother's an American kickboxing champion and he gets all cocky and he gets paralyzed by the reigning corrupt kickboxing champion, and you go and train, you should just kick the banana tree like your instructor says, because it's worth it, and then you'll get revenge. That was a really long Jean-Claude Van Damme reference. Okay, anyways, so yeah, it's an object is really nice, but I'm also, I'm trying to point out moments of what martial arts fanaticism as far as training, being fanatical about your training, okay? So I don't know about you, when I'm really deep in training and I'm loving what I'm learning, I'm very often thinking about it, and stolen moments are really good, like stolen moments of just a moment or two of thinking about a requirement or a technique or something that you're learning. So again, for example, I'm not suggesting you kick, but that you touch. You get up real quickly, it's a commercial, and you're gonna grab a snack, and before you grab your snack, here's your refrigerator, and you're not kicking it, you just take a few reps, and then you open up your refrigerator and get the snack. Martial artists are usually good like that. Those stolen moments of, whatever the art, like what were the angles again? You're on the elevator, right? Nobody needs to know that you're reviewing a Scream of One. They don't need to know, it's if you don't want them to. Those stolen moments, okay? So you can get training, you can find ways to innovate if you don't have a heavy bag or a bob dummy or something like that. And I don't want to be a hypocrite, because clearly I don't have that. So I'm trying to, you know, explain what you might do. Okay, so yeah, you can shadow box in an airport. Absolutely. You know, I like that too. So it's, if you do it by your gate, if they're running behind, you can kind of send a message that they should expedite the boarding of the plane without having to say it directly. So I like it. Okay, so the soccer kick. So understanding every time, no matter what lead, we're getting up on the ball of our supporting foot. And remember, it's a baseball bat. We're swinging. The only thing that stops us from going 360 is our target. That gets really old if you want to shadow kickbox your Thai boxing requirements. There's nothing wrong every now and then. Oh, like every now and then you take one and go through. But if I have to do a 360 and then a Karasak, which is that leg shield, that very often isn't there in the actual combination, every time I want to shadow kickbox a kick, that's a nightmare. So we have something, we call it the soccer kick. You're probably, unless you're in the minority, not going to feel very cool when you do it, because it's not a cool motion. But it's very important to understand what it is. It's a placeholder. It's signifying, okay, I understand at this point in the combination, there would be a fully committed Thai kick, but in my own shadow kickboxing in this moment, I don't want to do a 360 and a Karasak. That's what it's for. It's like a placeholder. Because once again, the very first Thai boxing 4 count that we learn in the WTBA is hop left kick, cross hook, right kick. So if I have to Karasak, hop left kick, Karasak that's not actually in the combo, cross hook, right kick, Karasak that's not actually in the combo. Well, I only did 1 4 count. I had to do 2 360s, and I had to do 2 Karasaks that aren't supposed to be in the combination. And again, if I don't have something I can kick, like a heavy bag or something like that, how do I practice my Thai boxing? Shadow kickboxing. So thus we need the soccer kick. So I've been kind of halfway-ish doing it today. Okay, the right one. There. That's all it is. I do the hands that I'm going to do. I start the motion of the kick, but I pull it. That's the rear soccer kick. Again, remember what it's for. It's a placeholder. It's not some motion where you're like, oh, that's, and I mean, again, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe you're like, oh, that's the coolest motion in the world. I don't know anybody in the WTBA who feels like that's a really neat looking martial arts motion. It's not. It's like a martial arts symbol of what would actually be there if you had something to kick. For the left, it's going to be that, but I'm going to work my either step and kick or I'm going to work my hop kick. Okay, so now, again, however uncool, and that usually, I mean, that might not be the most important thing to you if you understand the function of the soccer kick. The only reason I always sell it badly that way is usually when I teach it to people, they all make the same face. Like, I have to do that? Yeah, you have to do that because of what it gives you. Because if you wanted to shadow box all of your 4 counts, you'd probably fall over by the time. If not learning that means that every time you shadow kickbox a kick, you're doing a 360, it's almost not worth it to shadow kickbox those combinations. So that is the soccer kick. And we are, with the time that I have, I want to make sure that I've covered Savate as well. And so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go level 1 Savate into level 2 Savate, and then we'll go back to the other arts as we have time after that. So level 1 Savate, we wanted to start playing with a rocker shuffle, right? And having that really light, really mobile. That's their modality. It's a good modality to have, and it's good to work. It's good to put on like a minute and just do, on a timer, and just work your rocker shuffle and just be super light on your feet. Professor Nick Signac, that's, again, there's two. In reality, there's more, but usually in the United States, we're really thinking of Professor Nicholas Signac or Professor Salemas Lee as far as our guides for Savate within the United States. Professor Nick it's all that all the time. He's just bouncing super light. He never sets. I know that's a very different body mechanic than your kickstands. So it's good. Have multiple things within your arsenal. Okay, so our, and I'm very self-conscious because I have Coach Dylan on here, whose pronunciation is so much better than mine. I've shared this before. I took German in high school. Everything is phonetic to me. And so I just kind of read things, and I know that I'm coming off like a dumb American trying to badly pronounce French terms. So, but I'm still going to go through this. Dylan, if you want to bring your audio up at any point and help me, I certainly would appreciate it. So your fouette median, your roundhouse kick to the midline, this is where I like to start people. Remember, everybody, participants and viewers, Savate is a shoe art. Okay, so Savate is a shoe art. I'm not wearing shoes right now, and again, not to be disrespectful to Savate, but you want to think about that extra reach that the shoe, even if it's sneakers, that the toe of your pair of sneakers would give you. So, and then I have Coach Abra and Coach Dylan on video now, so they can also show you what we're working on. So at any given moment, we have two things that I want you to be aware of. Lean back and throw, non-telegraphic, just lean back and throw. And again, we're talking about our roundhouse kick to the midline. So lean back and throw. We want to re-chamber. We want to re-chamber all of these, right? So this motion of re-chambering, because multiple kicks are an option. The other one that I work, even though sometimes we think of it more as a JKD modality, is our pendulum. So, instead of slide step, you have slide kick, and you're still going to rechamber. Okay, so that's for your lead. Just the lean back, non-telegraphic, the pendulum, hopefully non-telegraphic, and then the rear with a rechamber replacing back to a left lead. Nice. And the other thing, because everybody's working barefoot today, watch your distance. If you're hitting with your shin, you're too close. So here's where again, this is my analogy. I think it works very well. Thai style kicking, you're learning how to fight with a baseball bat. Savate kicking, you're learning how to fight with a whip.
Which is what fouette means.
What's that?
That's what fouette means.
Whip?
Fouette, whip.
Oh, it's cool. I didn't know that. Thank you. So whip style kicking, And then my trick question is, which would you rather get hit with, a baseball bat or a whip? It's a trick question because they're both terrible. So let's learn how to fight with both of them and then choose based on the context what's going to fit you best. Okay, so fouette median with the lead and the rear has to be re-chambered. The lead, you can just flick it non-telegraphically or pendulum into it. All right, and the other nice part sometimes about shoes is that you, and I'm not suggesting anybody puts on shoes because I'm not putting on shoes right now. The nice part about working in shoes sometimes that you don't feel that badly about lightly making contact with your partner and then really getting comfortable absorbing and riding that kick. So that's our first kick. And then we're going to move on to chassé latéral, which is our side kick. And I want you to play with lean back, arm, and rechamber. So arm it, thrust it, rechamber, and set it down. Play with that with both leads. So the rear comes in and then replaces as well. So lead, just bring your foot up, thrust, and replace. Rear, swing it over, thrust, rechamber, and replace. And if anybody needs to alter the elevation, do it. If it needs to be low, it needs to be low. If we need to chassé bas, we're going to chassé bas, right?
Chassé bas.
Good. Okay. So, all right. So we have our chassé latéral, right? So our chassé frontal or frontal chassé is a lot like our teep, but it's going to rechamber. A lot like our teep, but it's gonna rechamber, right? The ties aren't gonna rechamber. They're gonna jam it and drop their foot. In savate, they're gonna rechamber. They might want to throw multiple kicks. So think of a pushing front kick and rechamber it. And again, don't worry about the elevation. Play with these tools. All right. If this has to be here right now, then that's there. Just explore it. Open up those hips a little bit and give it a try. Don't worry about elevation. We didn't do the longer kicking warm-up this morning. So if it's going to be low, it's going to be low.
And Dr. Bryan?
Yes?
I just want to make one quick point because you brought up about the fouette, but one of the major differences between the fouette and chassé is what part of the foot you're kicking with. And one of the major differences between the teep and the chassé frontal is what part of the foot you're kicking with. So with the chassés, you're kicking with the heel, not the toe, just because when you described the fouette, you talked about the toe and relevance. I don't know.
Thank you. Okay, so that's a good, and I haven't had anybody emphasize that to me in a long time. So I might have been missing that detail, and I might have been saying, use the ball of your foot. So here, let's try to push our heel. Okay. Again, I don't think this is.
Teeps at me, and whenever she throws teeps at me, she hits me with the ball of the foot, and it sucks. And like, that's not savate. Please stop doing that.
Got it. And so, I don't think this is a state secret. Our savate in the United States, it's a little scattered. It's a little hit and miss. So, and I know Dylan wants to change that. So this is good. It's been some time since I got to work with Professor Nick. So little details like that are good. So try thinking, when you thrust that, try thinking with the ball of, with your heel instead of the ball of your foot, and just see how that changes things. But again, that rechamber, that purposeful rechamber, and we're starting to open our hips up a bit, no matter what elevation we're kicking on. That's what I really want everybody to experience. Okay, so the next one, if I'm pronouncing it in my stupid phonetic way, I'll usually just say reverse frontal. I know that's so not right. Rivera frontal, fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to, and we want to work this with both of our legs. This is our outward crescent kick. Outward crescent kick. If you're here, you're there. If I'm at that elevation, I'm at that elevation. Use your twist. Twist your body. Again, just think of this as a little bit of investment of time for your hips. And if there's not crazy elevation right now, then don't worry about it. If it's going to be low, it's going to be low. Maybe this is a kick you use on people's knees if you ever want to use this kick in a self-defense context. Martial athletics, I wouldn't advise it. You're going to get, that's pretty dirty, okay? All right. So revers lateral is your heel hook kick, right? Your leg comes up and then hitting back with my heel, your heel hook kick. That's it. All right. And try both leads. Good. If it needs to be lower, make it lower. This is not my favorite kick. It doesn't mean it's bad. It is not my favorite kick. But, so think about bringing your foot up and hitting back with that heel. Good. Oh, and Coach Dillon, since you're here, maybe you can answer this one. When I was putting my curriculum together, this inverted front kick, I could not find a name in French. And I looked. So your usual front kick is here or here. And this comes straight from Professor Nick. This is just an inverted. You turn it out. And it's a little awkward, a little ugly, but surprising. So yeah.
There's no name for that as far as I know. What I would probably say that is that's probably like, if you wanted to give it a term, it would be a fouette frontal. But what it is not is a move in boxe français regulations. So in the sport of savate, there is no front kick. What I would say, though, as an estimation is that, and because this is part of how it's taught, that's about halfway to your revers frontal, because that crescent kick is taught two different ways. It's either taught completely straight-legged, kind of looks a little more capoeira-ish, or it's taught with a flick. And Nick does teach it with a flick. I know that from training with him. He'll bring up the knee and then open up the foot. So it's kind of like half of a revers frontal, but it would that would require that I'll just stand here. That would require that what the weapon is the outside of the foot. So it's not the toes going up into the chin. It would be the outside of the foot hitting the side of the face. So that would, it's similar to what you were talking about with Muay Thai with the roundhouse kick. how like if you were to kick an object, you wouldn't go through. The idea of the revers frontal is that you typically do go through, but that's largely because people will dodge it. It's usually a feinting kick. It's a setup. It's not, if Abra's here, she's going to bob back away from it. And then I'm going to use that to come back around with my fouette. But if she did block it and she decided to send energy into it, that's what it would end up looking like. So to train it would be really practical because then you're training a failed technique, but you're also training to put, if you did to a mitt or something like that, to put enough power into it that even though it's technically the failed technique, you're getting something out of it.
Interesting. I'm not, I mean, you know, we collaborate. And I could be completely wrong. I really thought I remembered Nick like burying that shot into somebody's side. And
Nick
again,
would.
it may...
No. Nick would, though, because he loves to exploit the rule set. So technically, from the rule set, that would be seen as a revers frontal, but that's probably why you're one of the guys that remembers all the names to everything. So if Nick had given that a specific name, you would have remembered it.
Yeah.
So part of the reason why you probably don't remember a name to it is he was probably not giving a name to it, because I've seen Nick be like, and this is a quick example, he's been like, Abra, just change your stance. He's shown me how in competition he loves to throw fouettes at the legs and actually...
Gotcha.
The man is the master of the actual sport.
Right.
So sometimes those techniques don't have names because why would they name a dirty trick, you know?
Right.
But yeah, it's really cool that that he would throw that into the rib cage from that angle, because he's probably doing that to throw his opponent off, which is awesome.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you for that. That's a good aside, and I can go. And yes, I was recording that from the standpoint of creating a curriculum, and if it had a name, I would have written it down. And so that's a really good point. So
when this gets posted to YouTube, I'll send the link to Nick and I'll just be like, tell me I'm an idiot, tell me what this is called, because I'll totally ask him to do that. But
yeah, let me track it down. But that I put it in there because, I mean, I was also thinking self-defense. That would be such a weird way to kick somebody in the groin that it's like completely unexpected with the tip of your shoe. Yeah. I just kind of thought that was an interesting, and obviously in the context of martial athletics, that wouldn't be so great. But from a self-defense standpoint,
inverted fouette, which is why it would be called a revers to begin with, I think. But it is an inverted fouette in terms of energy. I kick her in the face with something like that all the time, so it totally does exist. I just don't know as what in Savate.
I mean, I've done that too. It reminds me kind of like a...
Got it.
It does come out of Filipino martial arts. Yeah. Anyways.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. And Coach Dillon, since I have you here, in English, the one that I would call an oblique kick, how can you use your beautiful current French pronunciation and pronounce that kick?
I'll do my best. Coup de pied bas.
Coup de pied bas.
So it's, when you spell it out, it's coup de pied bas, but when the French say it, it just rolls into like one word, coup de pied. And it's basically cut to the foot or cut with the foot in the low line, which is what bas means. So, blah.
Got it. All right, very good. So thank you. So again, if for those participants and viewers, if you've trained JKD with me, you know, I like this kick very much. And I want you to play with your lead. Just lean into it. They're not beautiful kicks. They're not spectacular kicks. And they're not meant to be. And I mean, I'm really thinking both martial athletics and self-defense, jam the blade of your foot into the shin, non-telegraphically. And, you know, everybody, that rear kick really comes out naturally for most people. Play with the lead too. because it's unexpected. Lean your body to give you that kick. And again, maybe Coach Dylan, maybe you can speak to this. I will see this all the time, and I think my perception is it's one of those like showing the traditional kind of a moment, like a fully stylized moment in time. This kick, I see stills all the time where people they're doing, but they're opening their hands, and I mean that bugs me. So I just tend to remind. I mean, your hands are here, right? And my hands for either side. For me as a instructor who spends so much of his time reminding people to keep their hands up, keep your hands up, but maybe you have some other insight into that.
So that's the classical structure that comes from the original texts and the manuals. And when you're trying to convey Savate as like an art form from the French perspective, the hands are down. In my opinion, just based off of the literature that I've read and the diagrams that I've looked at, it's more to show where the weight distribution is going. So that lean back is a little bit more apparent when they have their hands down. In the photographs. You also got to remember that the original version of Savate did not include boxing with the hands. So they weren't as worried about covering their face at that range, because if they're leaning back, they're probably going to be able to avoid a kick. They're not really going to be able to deter a punch, though. So in modern sport, since at least probably the 1940s or 50s when it came back after World War II, I know for a fact that they do not train it with the hands down anymore, and they will yell at you for doing that. It's a fun little aesthetic. It is not practical on a martial sense, and they do, whenever you're doing asso or combat, whichever form of competition or self-defense, you are told to put your hands up. When it comes to doing that posture for the fouette with the arm up like that, they also will tell you not to do that, although Salem will do that in like the older Panther DVDs.
Right.
VHSs.
Right.
They're on YouTube now. But I only teach this when I teach Savate, because I teach it to keep people's chest elevated. As you were talking about lean back, you were doing it with the right intention. Some people will lean this far back to get a higher kick, and that's not the goal. So having this arm up keeps your counterbalance, but ideally they want the guard in front now. So and nowhere in modern Savate should you have your guard anywhere but protecting your target.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay. And this is good. Again, it's, you know, Coach Dylan's study of Savate is a little bit more up to date than mine, everybody. I got my yellow glove in 2008. I've certainly trained Savate since then, but Coach Dylan's really, even though my glove level is technically higher than his study of the art and the sport and all of it is way more current than mine is. So I appreciate your information.
I appreciate you bringing me in and allowing me to speak onto some things, because I mean, again, you're the guy that's going to be able to put it into a really useful curriculum. I'm just a nerd for everything about it. One point Abra was bringing up, Salem, when he does teach the fouette guard, like we were talking about, he'll talk about this as like the old way or the classic way, and this is the modern way or the sport way. So for what it's worth, the whole point of all of these parts of this conversation is that while you have like the specific stuff in Muay Thai, that's primarily because of the WTBA. That is like because they want you to do it a certain way, because Chai has done the research and everything like that. For Savate, it's an international sport where these regulations are so persnickety, most likely because they're French.
Okay.
So it's all about aesthetics and proper form, and so that's one of the major differences you're going to get out of Savate versus Muay Thai, is this complete and utter devotion to form in a lot of the sport. Not to say that that isn't in Thai boxing, but it's not as much of a requisite, I would assume.
Right. So, and thank you so much for that, seriously. And, you know, I think, Dylan, Aubrey, I think you've heard this story before, but I'll tell it briefly again for the benefit of everybody. When I got to the Inosanto Academy for classes in the later part of the 2000s, there was a Savat class on Saturdays. Saturday is now it's a 6-hour block of classes. It used to be a 7-hour block of class, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Shoot wrestling was the last class, and it would wrap up at 4 p.m. Professor Salem taught a ton of those classes on Saturday when he wasn't out of town doing a seminar. And unfortunately, this was back when the academy was half permanently matted and half unpermanently matted with kind of an ugly light industrial concrete floor. And we would have Savat on the ugly light industrial blue concrete floor. And there was this long-standing, there's a Thai boxing group, and there was there's a Savat group, and those two groups didn't like each other, and they didn't like the other things about the other art, and And then there was the third group, and I was in the third group, where we would look at the other people in the other two groups and say, do you understand where you are right now? This is maybe the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Take them both. Take them both. Extract. They're both good. You're not going to pollute your Savat, and you're not going to pollute your Thai boxing. And when people use wordage like that, it makes me think of the dark wizards from the Harry Potter series. Do you understand how ridiculous you sound right now? So, like Crew Janelle, who was my senior, and she was my corner for my Thai boxing exam, we used to take Savat all the time, and we would always spar at the end of class, and we would always beat the tar out of each other with Savat techniques and laugh the entire time because it was awesome. And then we had no problem later, oh, I'm in Thai boxing. Let me do my Thai boxing thing. It's a different modality. It's like speaking another language. And you flip your brain and you go into that other language. So I appreciate you adding to the dialogue. And I mean, anybody who's ever going to watch this, if you have the opportunity to study multiple arts and you're concerned that you're going to become like a jack of all trades and a master of none, I would always remind you, in elementary school, you don't hear a lot of kids saying, well, I've decided to focus on my coloring because I'm concerned that my syntax might be taking away. Focusing on syntax is going to take away from my coloring. So I'm going to stop learning about syntax and give my coloring my full attention, right? It's my spelling is really affecting my long division. So I'm going to stop the spelling practice and just devote myself. You're in an environment where you're learning. You're learning. All these different systems of learning, dwell in that. And then if you want to have a specialty, awesome. But to me, the people that are like, well, I mean, and again, I'm very biased because I am who I am and I have the experience I have. And if it were like you were getting ready to go into the ring, that's a completely different. If you're like, okay, I have 3 months and I'm going to go do a Thai boxing smoker. Dude, don't do anything else. In that context, I think you're crazy if you're doing anything else than focusing on your fight training. But that's the way it was. And then, unfortunately, the whole academy got matted and Savat went away. And I guess the Thai boxing people won, but then the third group lost, and so there you go. So that's the best advice that I can give everybody.
Brian.
What's that?
People just like shorts more than they like unitards. That's all it comes down to.
Well, Professor Salem has been very clever. He's got those fun, cool shorts now. You get the short and the compression top, and you don't have to rock the unitard anymore. So, you know, yeah.
But yeah, in the 80s and everything, I just don't.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I told you, Professor Tony Adams. He's a Silver Glove under Daniel Doobie. This is the Asian American gentleman that's in a lot of those. He was a very good friend of mine. You know, before he took his own life, unfortunately. But he was a very good friend of mine at Seafood Buds Academy. And yeah, I mean, he would joke all the time about filming, and yeah, we had to make sure our unitard was clean for the next day. And I mean, it is what it is, you know? Okay, so everybody, let's do what I said I was going to do, and I can give this to you conceptually, and I can give you 4 out of 5 of these savate combinations, and then we can spend a little bit more time on Thai boxing and then wrap this up. So in the WTBA curriculum, it's all about opposites. Like when you cross, you're always going to left kick. When you hook, you're always going to right kick. So it's opposite sides of the body. And then vice versa. After you right kick, you're going to hook. After you left kick, you're going to cross. In what we're about to do, it's very easy to keep track of it mentally, because here I want you to work on the same side. So 2 straight punches and then fouette on the same side. So cross, jab, lead leg, fouette, median. Jab, cross, rear leg, fouette, median. Cross, jab, lead leg, chasse, median. Jab, cross, rear leg, chasse, median. Okay, so, and then, you know, jab, cross, roundhouse kick on the same side that you finished punching on, or cross jab, and then 2 straight punches and side kick. That's to make it easy on you in English. So I throw 2 straight punches, and that side that my second punch was on, I either roundhouse kick or I side kick. So play with, there's 4 variations there. Rear, lead, lead, roundhouse. Lead, rear, rear, roundhouse. Rear, lead, lead, side kick. Lead, rear, rear, side kick. That's those 4. So just play with those for a moment. If the kick elevation needs to be lower, lower it. Good. And play with your timing, 1, 2, and. 1, 2, and. And the kick comes on the and. 1, 2, and. Play with that timing. Try not to make, if you can, 1, 2, 3. Try to 1, 2, and. On the half beat. Yeah, set up your kick with those hands. Get them thinking about your boxing hands, and then fire, sneak whatever kick in.
Ow. That was a really bad chasse.
It was a bad chasse.
Good. Okay, so that gives you 4 out of 5 of the combinations at the second level. This is the savate subsection of my kickboxing curriculum. And again, hopefully everybody understands the method to my madness. Since The Thai boxing curriculum, like I said, is so focused on opposites. Here, I want you to work the same side. So the side on which your punching terminates is the side you're going to kick on. Because I want you to have both. I'm always creating curriculum or grouping curriculum around the idea of making you as complete as possible. And since you have opposites in the Thai boxing, again, here I want you to play with the same side, that your punches set up kicks on the same side. We have one more combination, and frankly, this is one of my favorite combinations in kickboxing or savate or whatever you want to call it. Lead leg outward crescent kick, cross, and then that rear oblique kick. So revers frontal, cross, coup de bas, okay, with your rear leg. And so lead leg, outward crescent, cross, rear oblique kick. Just play with that for a moment. And again, whatever elevation that outward crescent kick needs to be on today, let it be there. I think when I added everything up, I've taught for 16 hours this week or 17 hours. I'm a little tired today. I don't mind admitting it. So take it easy. Everybody take it. I mean, wherever you want to take it. Maybe I shouldn't say take it easy. You don't feel like taking it easy, take it harder. But if you want to take it easy, take it easy. Don't put that kind of pressure on yourself. All right, good. So play with that for one more moment, and then a quick review for the benefit of everybody. Cross, jab, lead leg, fouette median. Jab, cross, rear leg, fouette median. Cross, jab, lead leg, chasse median. Jab, cross, rear leg, chasse median. Revers frontal, cross, coup de bas. Those are the 5 combinations in the savate subset of kickboxing level 2. So, you know, first level, singular tools, right? Trying to introduce you to individual kicks. Second level, some combinations. And as I am not implying that this is all the art has to offer. It's not. But these are all combinations that I've used in sparring a ton. Okay? And if I'm being really transparent and honest, with more of an emphasis on the lead leg kicking, I mean, as people are probably watching, I just have greater flexibility with my lead leg than I do my rear. So usually if I want to kick you in the head, I'm going to kick you in the head with my left leg. If I want to damage your body, I'm going to kick you on your body with my right leg. So that last combo, I will admit, I'm very biased because I'm a shorter guy. When I sneak that in, that lead leg outward crescent kick, a lot of people who don't know me, it's a really nice way to shock people. Because like I'll keep my kicks low purposefully, especially if I'm working with somebody new, and then kind of bust that out when I'm ready, when I feel like I've set them up. By the way, with this leg, at least I can hit you in the head pretty much whenever I want to. Okay, so I love what that into that cross gives you, and then the transition to that low oblique kick. That's just one of my, and again, I'm biased because I score on people, or I have scored on people a lot with those particular 3 motions. I really like that combination. But anyways, that's kind of the goal with the second level, is to start stringing things back and forth. Since I have Coach Dylan and Aubrey here, so if you could stand up real quick, Coach Dylan, you know, a really good training modality, and you guys don't need to change anything. If you're both in a left lead facing each other, whatever combination. So just do cross jab, lead leg, fuete median, okay? Bop. And then Coach Auber would do it, right? And so they would go back and forth, and I'm not being passive aggressive, with gloves and shoes, they can amp up the contact a little bit and time. Beautiful. Make those lines real, right? So that's always been one of my favorite training modalities in Savate. Professor Nick would show us some awesome combo, and we'd make sure we had it. And then you have your gloves on. You usually have your shoes on, maybe your ring shoes. And then you and your partner work it, and they're real lines. You're not trying to like take each other out, but you are trying to lightly, because you have boxing gloves on, make contact. Sometimes we even just go for here, right? You're genuinely trying to touch that point. And then your kicks, you're not trying to, take anybody out, but you are really expressing those kicks on that line. And I like the energy of that. And I mean, we have something similar in Thai boxing with we call them the Len Chun flow drills, very similar modality, but it's got a neat energy in Savate because you're really working the range. And, what I would share, because I really do love them both, it's been easier the last few years to have Thai boxing in my life than it has Savate, if I'm being transparent. Maybe Coach Dillon will change all of that. But, just what I would recommend, if you ever get to train with Professor Nick or Professor Salem, or you're just going to look them up on YouTube, what's simultaneously beautiful and kind of mind-bogglingly frustrating, they're always at the perfect range. Always. They're never too close, and they're never too far away. And that's my observation. And I'm just like, man, how do you do that? It's always perfect. Full extension, touching with the tip of the toe, or whatever part of the foot is supposed to be touching, not too tight. Like when I work on my chasses a lot, it's so easy to come in and just misjudge that range so that you can't properly extend. And Professors Salem and Nick do not have that problem. Like, it's always perfect. It's really beautiful to watch. And if you have the chance to train with them or even just observe them, that's what I would kind of, watch their control of range and how they're always at the perfect range for whatever technique they're executing. And I have a fair amount of training time with Professor Salem, even though I'm certified by Professor Nick. So I really appreciate what they both bring to the table. They're both really excellent at what they do. Okay, super quick, Thai boxing to wrap this up, okay? So you can be in your static kickstance. You can be in your mobile kickstance. Straight knee number 2 is a double slap down. So nothing is different on the low line. Remember, straight knee number 1 was here, right? That was straight knee number 1. Straight knee number 2 is here. Keep your hands up. I know maybe that doesn't feel like the hardest double slap in the world, but keep your hands up. That's it. And all that is, the cross is coming in, you just kill that line and you knee right underneath, okay? You just merge with it. Double slap down, boom, on the forearm, and end that opportunity for them to connect with that punch to your face. That's straight knee number 2. Straight knee number 1, I feel like I went off on one of my Bryan tangents. The inside of your palm is just blocking their eye. You want them to see the inside of your palm. So literally, this is hard to do with the like I can't see my camera. All I see is the back of my right hand. Well, that's what I would want. Like right now, I'm kind of doing it to the image of Rob. I can't see Rob's eyes. All I see is the back of my right hand. And I know that like basically for a split second, boom, Rob's seeing the inside of my hand. That's it. That was a great rep, Karen. That's it. That's straightening number 1. And remember, because it's martial athletics, it's not an eye jab. It's just it's a visual obstruction. Okay. Straightening number 2 is that double slap here. Double slap. And the only thing that differentiates these is what you do with your hands. So straightening number 1 is here. Straightening number 2 is here. Okay, straightening number 3 is the most awkward one to do in the air, but let's learn it anyways. You can drop your right hand, reach out slightly with your left hand, and you pass the imaginary punch to the right side of your face. So you're picking the cross up at the tricep with that left hand and just kind of patting it offline. By the time your foot touches the ground, both hands should be up again. Good. All of these, don't think attachment, just think destroy the line with contact. You're not gonna grab it. There's no death grip. Number 2, you're not gonna double grab because you're never gonna catch it. You're just gonna slap it. Here, you're just passing it. Boom. So they're throwing this, and you're just reaching out and merging and moving it to the right side of your face. But the low line never changes. It's that straight knee number 2. Okay, time. So if we're in our, I'm going to go static kickstands just for the sake of ease on this. If we reach out with our left hand and then our right hand braces, we can go here, we can go here. If our arms are long enough, we can gable grip. The only thing we can't do is this. So I want no interlocking of your fingers ever, not even in shadow clinch. Okay? So 3 different kinds of knees. 3 different kinds of knees, okay? Slide one back to arm it, knee, set it down. Slide the other one back, knee. Slide the right, knee with the right. Slide the left, knee with the left. This is very simple. That's skip knee number 1. It does not require extra gymnastic ability. You are not, I don't know why people always want to do this. You're not arming the next knee as you need. And I always make the same bad joke. That when you do that, you're doing like a bad version of the Running Man, the dance from the 90s. That's not what this is. And so you're even, you're not in a lead. Slide the right leg back, knee. Set it down and slide the left, knee. Slide the right. That's all it is. You're arming on the floor. It doesn't require any crazy gymnastic ability. And it doesn't even have to be done hard when you're learning it. That's skip knee number 1. Skip knee number 2. Okay, so we're in clinch. Your foot leaves the ground. Knee, hop the other one back. So even though it's leaving the ground, it leaves the ground. Knee, hop, knee, hop, knee. So it's the same as skip knee number 1, but your foot leaves the ground. Aside from that little hop, it doesn't require any crazy gymnastic ability. Okay, you just set it up. So that's skip knee number 2. Okay, and I'm a little bit over time. We are going to take a 10-minute break. I'm going to end this session. We're going to resume Hang on one second.